After months of steadfastly refusing to acknowledge the military authorities in Niger, declining to evacuate their ambassador, who had been declared persona non grata by the regime, and persistently keeping their military base operational in Niger, Emmanuel Macron has finally conceded the untenability of his position. This represented a significant and humbling reversal for Macron, who had initially denied and ignored the demands of the Nigerian authorities. He has now acknowledged reality and outlined plans for the withdrawal of French troops from Niger, as well as the evacuation of the ambassador. In response to this development, the Nigerian military authorities issued a statement asserting, "Imperialist and neo-colonialist forces are no longer welcome on our national territory. The new era of cooperation based on mutual respect and sovereignty is already underway." This marks a major victory for the Nigerian military authorities, as Macron's policy in Niger has ultimately backfired, endowing them with a heroic image within their country. Remarkably, this marks the third Francophone country in West Africa where France has been compelled to shutter its military base and withdraw its troops following similar actions in Burkina Faso and Mali. France has outlined a plan to gradually evacuate its troops from Niger, with the last contingent scheduled to depart by December of this year, following behind-the-scenes negotiations with the Nigerian military authorities. France's decision to withdraw its troops indicates that the military authorities firmly resisted all offers and insisted on the evacuation of French troops and the closure of the military base. From the outset, it was evident that France could not sustain the situation. Reports emerged that embassy staff were surviving on military rations due to the authorities' blockade, which prevented food from being delivered to the embassy. Additionally, the French troops appeared to be idle, akin to vacationers, despite their mission abroad to gather intelligence or aid in counterinsurgency efforts. Given these circumstances, it was only logical to bring them home, as continued presence in a country where they were unwelcome and restricted was unsustainable. So, how did France's strategy collapse in Niger? Initially, France relied on the European Union, EU, to maintain a strong stance against the military regime. However, divisions emerged within the EU, with Italy and Germany advocating for peaceful negotiations rather than the use of force in Niger. On the United States front, negotiations with the Nigerian military authorities resumed, and surveillance operations at the U.S. military base were reinstated. The U.S. base in Niger is the largest on the African continent, serving as a critical hub for surveillance across regions such as Somalia and Central Africa. Consequently, the U.S. refrained from labeling the situation in Niger as a military coup, as doing so would have mandated troop withdrawal in accordance with U.S. policy. The U.S. negotiated in its own interests, effectively leaving France isolated within the EU. Within the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, strong opposition to the use of force in Niger arose due to concerns about wider implications, especially in northern Nigeria. Furthermore, Burkina Faso and Mali had already established a military pact, vowing to intervene in any of the three countries and treat foreign invasions as an assault on all of them. This complexity made it challenging for an ECOWAS intervention force to simply remove the Nigerian military and install Bazoum, as they would be confronting combined forces from three nations. Consequently, France found itself isolated in this situation, which diverged significantly from its successful strategy in Côte d'Ivoire, when it relied on rebels and the United Nations for intervention. This outcome represents a major victory not only for the Nigerian military authorities, but also for the citizens of Niger, many of whom viewed this revolution as a significant step toward emancipation from French influence. Perhaps the greatest disappointment for France lies in the stance taken by the United States, which chose to prioritize its own interests over supporting France, demonstrating that all nations pursue their interests. Ultimately, the Nigerians have successfully ended French influence in their country and are now focused on renegotiating agreements with other nations, seeking fair and equitable terms for cooperation. Addressing the root causes of these issues will require investment in education. Many foreign companies involved in resource extraction are reluctant to establish processing plants in the countries where they mine natural resources because this would entail providing employment in those nations. To counter this, countries like Niger should focus on training their own workforce and developing domestic industries that add value to their natural resources. For example, if gold is mined, gold processing plants can be established, creating jobs and increasing tax revenue. This approach is more advantageous than selling raw materials, as finished products typically command higher prices. Now, all eyes are on the Nigerian military authorities, as their challenge shifts from taking power to utilizing it effectively. They have successfully curtailed French influence in their country, but face the daunting task of advancing their nation. It is worth noting that they have lost a significant portion of foreign contributions to their national budget, necessitating the generation of alternative revenue sources to maintain fiscal stability, pay salaries, and promote development. All these endeavors must be accomplished while transitioning to civilian rule. Brigadier General Chiani's appointment of an economist as Prime Minister reflects an awareness of these challenges. Niger now faces the imperative of leveraging its natural resources to stimulate economic growth. The journey toward full emancipation is undeniably challenging, but it has begun in earnest. If you are watching our video for the first time, I suggest you subscribe to our channel for more interesting and captivating information. Turn on the bell notification to get alert on all our recent posts so you won't miss out any. Share your thought in the comment section and share these videos with family, friends, and concerned Nigerians. Thanks for watching.